Welcome to Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Choo, episode number 24. My name is Gabe Estel. I'm here with my co-hosts, Jonathan Getz and Dennis Levi Leach. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
Good. Happy opening week. Real baseball is upon us. Everyone's excited. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Last week, actually, there was a giant press conference / ego fest. Some of the most popular musicians of right now held a
We
press
did not
conference.
say talented.
Right. There were a few good artists in there, but Jay-Z is launching a streaming service called Tidal, Tidal, and basically it promises higher quality, but it's at a higher cost. It's about $20 a month for the service. So he had a press conference, a bunch of people there. Beyonce, of course, Alicia Keys, Daft Punk, yeah, the Arcade Fire, Jack White. So it was, really like the probably some of the most popular musicians of right now. And I thought the whole thing was just the self-importance of Jay-Z. As much as I don't mind the guy's music, I think the Black Album's really good, actually. The self-importance that guy carries himself with sometimes, like acting like he's Rembrandt or some shit, in this.
Hey, he used to own 0.1% of the Nets.
Yeah, you're not changing the fucking world, dude. It's just a streaming service, okay? Just like the other ones that are out there right now, only it's a little bit better quality. So I mean, yeah, it's his money. If he's bored, he can spend it however he wants. And like I said, I don't mind. Most of the time, I don't mind Jay-Z, but when he gets self-important.
Well, it wasn't just him though. Seeing the clips from this press conference and all of these artists lined up, like signing this document like it's the Declaration of Independence, was really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was.
And I think because all of these artists are filthy rich, and I think that's where they went wrong. They should have had younger, more up and coming artists, maybe no name artists. Tobias Jesso Jr. is a good up and coming artist right now. That was just on Conan, and people maybe would have recognized him. But all of these guys were filthy rich, and so it came off totally pretentious. Yeah. And if it's higher quality, that's cool. I'm listening. But the act, it was not well orchestrated.
Yeah. I gotta dismantle this two ways. The first is somewhere in a room, Neil Young's sitting pissed the fuck off because he came up with something like this like a year or so ago, where he was trying to get higher quality digital.
Yeah, music. The Pono came out.
Yeah, and so that aspect of it makes me think it's not going to work because Rockstar's already gotten behind in a digital format, and it's not done anything.
And I mean, let's be honest. Not a lot of people really cared about Neil's MP3 player.
It's for audiophiles.
Well, and that's my next. That you steered it right to the place I'm going. Mm-hmm. If you care enough about the sound of music, you probably listen to records instead of streaming.
Right. Well, there's a trade-off.
There's a time and a place for streaming. I understand.
Finding new artists.
Yeah, or it's great for when you're on the go. You can't.
I'm at the office.
Yeah, you can't throw a record. While you're on the train or whatever. Well, and so I get that there needs to be streaming services, but the quality of a streaming service, in my opinion, will never beat the quality of a vinyl record.
It won't. But I think when you're in a situation where you want to be able to stream, it's awesome. Keep improving the streaming quality, because otherwise, we'll get stuck in a rut of
and it's a big difference. The rhythm sections suck in streaming.
Hi-hats and
The problem is, you can get decent quality sounding music for free all day long on YouTube. I
You're
mean,
right.
if you want
You're right.
to listen to music on your phone, you just pull up YouTube.
Well, and quite honestly,
you can go video to video to video, and a lot of them are in HD now.
Yep.
YouTube is how most younger people listen to music now.
Exactly. Under the age of 22, that's how they consume, is on YouTube. And you're right, Levi. It is high def audio.
Yeah. Yeah, it does sound pretty good.
As long as that's out there, nothing like Tidal, I think, is going to take off.
I don't think so either. Yeah, I mean, it's already entering kind of a crowded field too. You've got Spotify, you've got RDO, you've got.
But the angle of it isn't it so that the artists make more money, right?
With this,
isn't that the angle of Tidal?
This one.
Yeah. I mean, the rates are higher. You know,
the rates are higher, but if they're also selling higher quality, then that's sort of a trade-off. But
I'll defend the artist here. Like $20 a month for all the music you want to listen to is still kind of dirt cheap, you know.
Yeah, my 17-year-old self would be totally ecstatic over that.
Right. I mean, most people there was an average that like I read, because this got a lot of press coverage, obviously. It kind of is one of those stories that's indicative of, you know, the changing musical landscape and how we consume music. So you had all the media weighing in. You know, it's a crowded field, like I mentioned, but also, like I think I read like the average consumer spends like $40 a year on music. So for them, it is expensive. You know, if you have $20 a month times 12, right? For us, people who, you know, when we were buying CDs regularly, I was buying shit. I was buying a couple CDs a week.
Well,
you know,
I drop loot on vinyl all the time.
Right, right. So we still buy music, and you know, I feel guilty sometimes how little I pay for music on RDO. You know, I mean, you know, it's between me and my wife, it's, you know, I think $17-18 a month, something like that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, so I don't really see this going anywhere. You know, I mean, it made a splash, obviously, because of all the people involved in the commercial, essentially, press conference / commercial.
Yeah, and the idea that they turned the press conference into a commercial, like, made it all the more pretentious.
It was cringeworthy, man.
It made for really good, like, headline news stuff while you're sitting in a doctor's office.
Yeah, right.
You're just like, oh, that's kind of a neat.
I love, like, everyone really seriously listened to, like, I don't know, like Chris Martin and Madonna. Everybody's like, yeah, you know, like, I don't want to hear, like, somebody like on Deadspin posted, like, there was a Deadspin.
They were incredulous on Deadspin. Yeah.
Gawker or Deadspin, like, posted the article and they said it was terrible. One of the commenters said, Madonna is kind of like that old aunt who can't drive anymore, but you don't have the heart to take away the keys.
Ouch. Ouch.
So, yeah. But anyway, moving on from Madge and on to other topics. Bob Costas, well, I guess, I don't know, legendary is weird to say, but he's been around a while.
St. Louis's own.
He is, yeah, he's a big St. Louis guy. He proposed, it got the media coverage. I don't know how long ago he proposed this, but there was an article on Business Insider here just couple days ago, and Costas proposed taking away 8 games from the current season, so it would be 154 games. And here are his 3 suggestions. So convert the wild card round from 1-game playoff to a best of 3, with all 3 games played at the home of the team with the better record. Okay. Second suggestion was convert the division series, which is now best of 5, to best of 7. Okay. And his quote here, which I think is a fairly good rationale for it, says, "What sense does it make to have one series that is best of 5 be the one that involves the wild card, and the third best of the 3 division winners, therefore increasing the possibility of a fluke result?"
Right, because the more games you play, the more likely the better team will
most likely
persevere.
And the last one is give the number 1 seed an extra home game against the wild card team in the division series.
My head hurts.
Yeah, and he basically says that when the 2 and 3 seed play each other, you just go 2-3-2. Games 1, 2, 6, and 7 at the home of the higher seed. Games 3, 4, and 5 at the home of the lower seed. Which is the way that it's done now.
Mm-hmm.
But when the wild card winner plays the team with the best record, you go 2, 2, and 3. Games 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7 at the home of the higher seed. The other seed only. The lower seed gets 2 games. Yeah, it's complicated.
I could see the best of 7 thing for the one round.
Yeah, I don't like that it's best of 5 that round.
Yeah, and I the other things though I don't really agree with, and I'm not sure. I would like to ask a bunch of baseball players if giving them an extra 8 days off would matter to them.
I mean,
I would think so.
I would think it would. I mean, to see families, I mean, it would build in a little bit of a cushion in the schedule. I mean, so maybe they could have 2 days off in a row sometime.
Well, and maybe not even. It doesn't equate to days off. Maybe just the season gets over in October as opposed to November, which would be nice for that to be consistent.
When did we go to a 162 game season? Do we know?
Was it that 69 or
yeah, it was in the 60s.
How many games were before that?
It was 154.
Yeah, it was 154.
So that's why he wants to go there. I wondered how he was.
I think that's how he arrived at the number.
Yeah, so when Maris hit 61, he did that in 154 games, and so it's interesting with baseball and all of these hollowed stats that we compare seasons of different lengths, and so it's not really apples to apples.
Right.
And that would happen again.
Yeah.
Although you'd get somebody more likely to hit 400.
Right.
With 154 games. I agree. I've been thinking that they should go to 154 games for a while, though I don't think that they need to expand the playoffs. I kind of get the wild card thing. Instead of a 1-game playoff, it's just like you have a series at another ballpark like you do all year, where you play 3 at somebody else's ballpark, and that's pretty standard, I guess.
See, I kind of like the intensity of a sudden death game, though.
Right.
I have to admit, I don't want that one changed.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat there. I like that.
It's intense, I mean, it's just one and done.
I think
it makes for a fluke, and I sometimes think that's exciting for baseball.
That's what makes the tournament that just finished so great,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like Bob. I'm not going to say he doesn't like the wild card winning the World Series as often as it does, but he's trying to give those top 2 teams more of an advantage, I guess, because he thinks that. That just because the wild card team catches fire doesn't mean that they should be permitted to win the World Series so easily.
Yeah, but sports are about. It's more about any given day than it is a whole season. I mean, so
yeah.
I don't like that notion. I don't like these super teams anyway. I mean, one of the best things about baseball right now is that there's so much parity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're going to go over our predictions here in a little bit, and as I was surveying the league, there's only like 6 teams that like really suck. 6
that
or
don't
7.
have a chance.
Yeah, that like have no chance. I would say of getting either wild card slot. So yeah, I don't want to see these dynasty teams. I mean, that's what made the late '90s and the early aughts kind of suck. Well, it's what made it up until a few years ago suck, because it was the Yankees and the Red Sox every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of turned into the Giants.
Yeah,
or every other year now for the Giants.
Though they went a long time without having one, so
they did. And
cluster effect.
Yeah, they're just the fact that they don't make it every other year, at least recently, that's their pattern. Shows that they're vulnerable still.
And the Red Sox went worst to first, and there's certainly a history of that.
All right, I mentioned predictions earlier, and we're going to go ahead and move on to those before we get to our final 4 of Guitar Madness. All right. So we wanted to get these predictions in while the season is still very young. Most teams have only played 2 games at this point.
I have based all my predictions on these 2 games.
Right. It's like the Braves are 2-0. Just put them in the World Series, So anyway, want to go ahead and go over these guys. This is exciting. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do when I was writing these down, I filled out a 1 through 5 for each division just to put it into perspective. But we're not going to do that. It doesn't really matter if the Rockies finish above the Diamondbacks or vice versa. Neither one of them is probably going to the playoffs.
I had 7 minutes ready for that argument. I had a 7-minute argument on that.
I was going to filibuster.
So we're just going to do the division winners, the 2 wild cards in each league, and then the World Series matchup. Does that sound cool, guys?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we didn't really talk about how to break this down. Should we just do division by division? Like just do start off?
Yeah,
with,
sure. Let's start with the AL East.
Let's go with the AL East.
Okay.
All right. A division that actually was known for many years for being the strongest, mainly because of the Yankees and the Red Sox, and now that's certainly changed. I would actually argue that this might be one of baseball's weaker divisions right now. So Levi, who you got, man, for this for the title in the AL East?
I know it's probably an off-the-wall pick, but I went with the Blue Jays.
All right. I don't think it's that off the wall.
I like them. I think they've got a really good group of veterans, and I think
offense.
The linchpin's going to be a former Cubs, Diana Navarro. No, I'm kidding. But he caught a train to Toronto and is now a Blue Jay.
Okay, he's probably their backup catcher, right?
Yeah,
I guess.
I think people are kind of underestimating him.
Yeah.
Kevin Seitzer's batting coach, right?
Oh, is Seitzer with the Blue Jays?
I think he might be.
He was last year.
Okay.
Yeah, Edwin Encarnacion, man, he can knock.
Yeah. Joey Bats is not what he was that one season where he hit like 50-some home runs.
But he hasn't been a flash
hit.
in the pan at the same time, though. So
right. They've got a hell of an
Donaldson,
offense.
Reyes.
Yeah, Donaldson.
They traded for Donaldson. I'm not sure if the pitching's quite there for them. Like Burley's another year older. R.A. Dickey, that as much as I like the guy and I love to see a knuckleballer succeed, that Cy Young was a fluke. It really was.
Well, with a knuckleballer, any game is a fluke, whether it's one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so he had a whole season like that, and lo and behold, he just happened to have it when he was like 40 years old, which is crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, he's like their number 2 or number 3, I think. So I don't have a lot of faith in the rotation, but I think Levi's right that they're going to put up a lot of runs. I mean, they'll make some noise still in that division, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so Levi goes with Toronto. I like it. I like the boldness of the pick. I had them more like a third place team.
Yeah.
So.
I don't believe in Toronto. I'm not drinking that Canadian Kool-Aid. I'm going with the Red Sox. I think these fluctuating seasons of worst to first is going to play out again. The pickups in the offseason with Pablo Sandoval and Hanley.
Who Hanley, grand slam and a solo home run on opening day.
Oh man, and I trashed that move all off season. I thought it was the worst move they could have made, and sure enough, he's gonna hit like 310 with 20 home run and 90 RBI. And Buchholz said, okay, the question is the starting pitching, but I think they can get by with who they've got in Buchholz, Porcello, and Miley. I'm going Red Sox there.
Cool.
Yeah, Porcello was a good move. That's a guy that's kind of entering his prime, or he's in his prime at this point. Yeah. So I definitely like that move. I agree. I mean, I had the Red Sox second and the Blue Jays third. So my pick to win the division is Baltimore. They lost Markakis and Cruz, but they already had so much offense that I don't think those losses are. You'll miss Cruz's home runs, but they've still got Chris Davis there. They've still got Machado.
Yeah.
Adam Jones.
Weeders.
Weeders. Yeah, I'm forgetting of somebody else here. Shoop, right?
Yeah, second baseman.
Yeah, so it's a really well balanced team. I mean, they have a good rotate. They have good pitching too. Their bullpen's really good as well. So to me, they're the best overall team in this division. I think they've got, I think Toronto and Boston, maybe they'll put up more runs. Boston's got a hell of a lineup this year, but to me the Orioles are top to bottom the most complete team in this division. So I think they tough it out.
All right.
They get it. All right. So I like that, guys. 3 different picks. Nice. All right, let's go to the AL Central, where Jonathan's Royals and my White Sox play. Gosh, this was tough. This was the toughest division to pick, in my opinion.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least for the AL.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Twins don't stand a chance, but 4 other teams do. I think so. Jonathan, we'll start with you here, man. Who did you pick to take the Central?
I went with the Cleveland Spiders, and I've been hearing too many people talk about them, and so I guess I was influenced a little bit. Obviously, they've got a lot there with Corey Kluber, reigning Cy Young Award winner, and the rest of that rotation is pretty solid. And Carrasco and Trevor Bauer.
That House kid could be all right too.
Yeah. So Brantley, he could be an MVP candidate.
He's good.
Carlos Santana, Giacomo Va, Jason Kipnis. Yeah. I'll going with the Indians.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the Spiders.
I'm gonna
go ahead. Levi.
I'm gonna go with the Royals, man. I still think they're good enough to win the division. I don't know if they're good enough to get deep into the playoffs.
They just don't have the experience of going deep in.
No. I do. I know. How I think that translates to them winning the division is I think it's lifted that stigma that we're the Kansas City Royals, we're doomed to not be that great.
Right.
And I think they're good enough to win the division.
Yeah. All right. I'll tell my friends.
Levi, you and John Heyman on CBS are the only people I've seen make that prediction. I mean, it's just I've talked about this in previous episodes during spring training. It puzzles me why everybody's thinking the Royals will regress so much.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at all these predictions that the experts are making, and everybody's got them in 3rd or 4th.
All the statisticians are saying they're going to win 72 games.
Right, and I just don't see it. I did not pick them to win the division. I, like Jonathan, picked Cleveland. I think that it's a resurgent team. They've got I think Kipnis was hurt a little bit last year,
mm-hmm.
So they've got him back, who's a really good player. I think he's becoming a very, very good one too. He will, their Tito is managing them. So they've got a good skipper at the helm as well, a veteran skipper who has World Series rings. They've got the reigning Cy Young and a good young pitching staff. So I think they can take it. Detroit's getting a little bit older. The Royals, I think, are going to be competitive again, but I think Cleveland will be better. The White Sox, I think, will be in the thick of it. But I'm not quite sure we're better than those other 3 teams, even with the moves we made in the offseason.
Yeah, it's a tough division.
Yeah. So all right. So 2 of us took Cleveland. Levi takes the Royals. Let's go on to the AL West then, and then we'll do the 2 wild cards after we do that division. Levi, headed out west. Who do you got, man?
For me, this was the easiest one. I had to go Mariners.
Yeah.
I think they're the best team in the division, hands down.
Yeah.
As long as, Felix Hernandez can pitch like he did before, and I think they're just easily the team to beat in that division.
Cano's going to be just tear it up this year again as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Robinson Cano, he's turning into a Hall of Famer, no?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree with Levi. I think Seattle's the strongest, and King Felix and Iwakuma. I mean, Iwakuma's a stud in his own right.
This Walker kid too is going to be pretty good
Taiwan
as
Walker.
well. Yeah. So they've got they're starting to solidify the rotation. And I'm with you as well. I mean, this one was easiest for me as well. I mean, the Angels and the A's I think will be good, but I think the Mariners will comfortably win the division.
You know what's going to happen is the A's are going to win like 110 games.
Right.
Every year.
With a bunch of people we've never heard of.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Just when I think Billy Beane is crazy, they turn around and win 100 games. So
batting third, Mike Lowell.
Right.
What? He's still playing?
Yeah. I mean, they trade Donaldson, after he has a hell of a year. And
I couldn't believe it.
So weird.
And that was one of the reasons why I was so high on the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
I think he was a great pickup for them.
He's good. He's really good. Yeah. He
seems like a really good teammate.
Yeah.
Seems like a good clubhouse guy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's going to be one to watch. I mean, he's already good, but he's going to get really good. All right, so Mariners there, unanimous. What's that?
I said wild cards now.
Yeah.
Wild cards. These were tough. For me, these were really tough. Of course.
But at the same time, they're almost throwaways in a way.
Right. So, Levi, who do you got for your 2 wild cards, man?
My first wild card spot is Cleveland. And I thought that was easy to me. If my division picks hold true. And then my second one, which was tougher, I went with the White Sox.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
I think the White Sox are going to surprise some people. I think it might not be until after the All-Star break. It might be one of those things where they kind of turn it on.
Yeah.
But I think Abreu's going to be a stud. I think it's going to click for him.
I hope you're right, man.
You're ahead of schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the experts, John Heyman, who I mentioned earlier, he was the only person that I saw that picked us to make the playoffs, like Levi said, as one of the wild cards. Everybody else was kind of like, third place, fourth place. So yeah, well, thank you. I hope you're right, man. I really hope.
Hey, I gotta support Chicago. Somehow.
Yeah, I like it, man. I hope you're right. I mean, I think Abreu could be the MVP.
I think the talent's
there.
Yeah,
he could.
Yeah, Abreu, Sale could win a Cy Young. I mean, we've got 2 guys that, I feel good because we've got one of the best pitchers in baseball, and we've got one of the best hitters in baseball now.
Yeah.
So
that's
exciting.
If they make it to the postseason, then Abreu could very well win the MVP. But if they don't, he could put up astronomical numbers. But if they don't make the postseason, then
they tend to get ignored in the. Well, not ignored, but they tend not to win the MVP. Yeah. So, all right. So Levi's got both wild card picks coming out of the Central. So that's definitely going to be a tight division this year.
I'm keeping it in the division too.
Okay.
Detroit and Kansas City wild cards.
All right.
Nice.
1-game playoff, and it's going to be absolutely nerve-wracking.
Detroit and KC in the wild card. Okay. Detroit's a little bit of a head scratcher this year. I mean, I think that I don't necessarily know if they're better than they were last year.
They're older.
They got Cespedes.
Yep. For what that's worth.
Yeah, I feel bad, man. That Cespedes guy.
Yeah.
He's been everywhere, man.
Yeah, it sounds like he's bad clubhouse.
Something.
Mojo.
He's like the new Milton Bradley.
Levi, he would have been a good fit in the outfield for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he's if he's getting traded this much, yeah. But anyway, so for my wild cards, so you guys got them both coming out of the Central. For my wild cards, I've got the Royals as one of my wild cards. As I've been mentioning it for weeks now, that I just don't see them regressing. I don't see them making it to the World Series either.
Yeah,
but I think it's unlikely as well.
Yeah, when you've got that core of talent that's really entering its prime. I mean, Gordon's like the guy that's in his prime. Hosmer, Moustakas, Kane, all those guys are entering it right now,
Yep.
Or at the beginning of it.
Yep.
I mean, I mean, those guys are only going to get better. All four of those guys this year, and that's a good core. If I've got any question marks around Kansas City, it's after Duffy in the rotation.
Yeah.
I'm not in. That's another reason I don't see them going deep in the playoffs. I think they probably even maybe lose the wild card game, just because I'm not confident that that's like a World Series caliber rotation after Duffy. Bullpen's going to be great again.
Yeah, it will be.
But I'm just not convinced the starting pitching's there. But I think they do have enough to push into the wild card.
Unless Medlin comes back in the summer and gets to his old form and becomes a solid number 3.
Yeah, it could be possible, but I still don't think the rotation's that deep. And then my other wild card, I took the Red Sox. So I've got Boston and Kansas City as my wild cards. I mean, mainly it'll just be redundant here for some of the reasons that Jonathan had mentioned. I like this. Is it Mookie Betts?
Mookie Betts, yeah.
Yeah, I like this kid. He's going to be nice
name.
as the leadoff. Yeah, great baseball name. They've just significant moves in the offseason. Sandoval especially, I think.
Yeah.
And the rotation, I looked at it and I had heard a lot of people dogging the rotation, but I don't know, man. It's still not bad. I mean,
I think the main gripe against it is that they don't have the designated ace of the staff.
Right. Yeah, with Lester gone,
and they don't. They
don't have anybody that's comparable to Lester.
But they could buy somebody by the end of July.
Well, I like Porcello as a number 1. I'm comfortable with him as a number 1 at this point. Yeah. But yeah, so those are my 2 wild cards as well. Well, okay, let's do this right now. Then, since we'll do the AL all in one swipe. Who do you guys have going to the World Series from the American League?
Well, speaking of, I have Boston.
Okay.
I think it just clicks again for them. That offense gets rolling, and it's more than makes up for the slightly less than dominant pitching staff.
Okay.
I got to go Mariners.
Yeah. They're going to be a tough squad,
I think they're the team with the target on their backs.
Yeah.
In the AL. So
they've never made it to a World Series, have they?
I don't think so.
No.
They came close when they had like Jay Buhner and Griffey.
Right.
Yeah, with that one year where like they won like 109 games or something like that. Yeah.
116 maybe. Yeah.
100. Wow. Yeah, they had a hell of a it's right on maybe like I don't know. It was in the late 90s when they still had A-Rod as well. The Levi's. I mean, Levi's onto something with Seattle. I mean, they're going to be really strong. But I went with Cleveland in the AL. I think that. Over 7 games, I think maybe they could hang with Seattle and pull it off. With Seattle, I had them winning the division, but you've got Cano and you've got Nelson Cruz, who's who's a candidate for 35 home runs at least.
And 1 suspension.
Yeah, and then they still have Kyle Sager, right?
Yeah, they signed Sager to the big contract.
Yeah, they gave him the big contract. The rest of the lineup, Zunino, that catcher could be something, but I don't know. I'm not like I would take Cleveland's lineup top to bottom because I think that it's more balanced. I think they've got a little bit more from top to bottom. I don't think Cleveland has anyone as good as Cano, but I think 1 through 9. I would take Cleveland. So I've got the Tribe going to the World Series.
All right.
Yeah. Hope I'm wrong. I hope it's the White Sox, but hey, these picks are with my head and not my heart, I guess. All right. So moving on to the National League, where Levi's Cubs reside.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and start with the East. This was the easiest division.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you all just say it at once?
I would assume it's Nationals all around.
Yeah, Nationals.
The Nets.
Yeah. Yes. Be curious to see how far they go in the playoffs.
I think they're kind of one of those teams that are kind of doomed now to always make the playoffs, but maybe not get too far. Seems like they crumble a little bit when they get the pressure put on them.
Yeah, I mean they obviously they're not afraid to spend money. They've got deep pockets, and also it tells me they could go out and make a trade if they had to. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those they're hungry to win it. Like if one of those starters goes down, they're like, hell with it. We'll bring in Cole Hamels. We'll sacrifice half our farm system for Cole Hamels.
We've secretly been cloning Nolan Ryan.
Right.
We have that much money.
So yeah, this was an easy pick. It's a good offense too. I mean, it's the pitching. It's hands down the best rotation in baseball. But it's a pretty good offense too. So
it is.
So yeah, they're going to be tough. I think they might win the most games among anybody in baseball.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, they could be like those Mariners. They could win 110 games easy, and then be swept in the playoffs, and nobody would really be terribly
like the
surprised.
division series, they get swept or something. Yeah, it could happen. All right. So moving on to the Central, Levi, we'll start with you. Your Cubs play here. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of excitement around the team this year. How does the Central shake out, man?
Unfortunately, I think more of the same. I think the Cardinals are probably going to be the winners of the division. Obviously, the Cubs aren't good enough, I don't think, to win it. And I'm not sure if anybody else is going to be able to give the Cardinals a run for their money either. I mean, the Pirates, maybe.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the Cardinals are a better team than the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that actually the Pirates are going to take the division. And not, the rotations don't match up. Cardinals always have strong pitching, but I think that it's time for somebody to break through in that division and dethrone the Cardinals. Maybe it's wishful thinking, and
God, I hope. Yeah. I want somebody to.
But it's changing of the guard, and it seems like the Pirates could be when you think about that core with Marte and McCutchen and Josh Harrison, who they just locked up long term today.
Yeah.
And Pedro Alvarez, Francisco Cervelli. Offensively, they could be something to behold.
Yeah. I like a few of their pitchers too. Garrett Cole, Charlie Morton, who's injured, but I saw they got Burnett back too, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Which I'm not sure what they'll get out of him, but they're going to be good. They're going to be good, but I don't think they're going to be good enough to beat the Cardinals. I'm with Levi here. St. Louis just has the track record. I mean, they've got the talent, but they've also got the track record. They've also got a pretty good minor league system still as well. So if somebody goes down, I think they can bring somebody up. I think Hayward is there's the comeback player of the year right there, I think. Dude, he's going to be good.
They've been saying that for 5 years.
I'm predicting he's going to be good as well, I think.
Yeah.
I think
I hate to say it because I wish he was in a Cubs uniform, but I think he's going to be good.
The talent's always been there. He's still only 25. Change of scenery, going to a winning organization.
There's
even more
nothing
winning than the
to
Braves.
do in St. Louis when you're wealthy except sit in your mansion.
Right, that's the truth.
And eat crappy pizza.
Just ask Nelly. Anyway, all right. So the Cardinals there, and Jonathan's got the Pirates, who I think will be good as well, but not quite good enough. And then we go out west. This one wasn't hard for me either.
Mm-mm.
I just don't see any of these teams being better than the Dodgers.
Yeah. Same three-way all the way around.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah, I said the same. Yeah.
Right. I guess the Dodgers bullpen is kind of on shaky ground. I have read that.
Yeah.
But when you've got the best pitcher in baseball, not a lot of things are superlatives, but I think it's safe to say Clayton Kershaw is the best pitcher in baseball.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean that guy's so good.
And Greinke would be an ace on any other staff.
Yeah, Greinke's no slouch either, and you're right. Yeah, any other team.
Hyunjin Ryu,
he's the number one.
if he's healthy, is pretty good too.
Right.
I'm rooting for Brandon McCarthy too. I hope he gained some momentum off of the success that he had, admittedly, with the Yankees. But I root for Brandon McCarthy. I hope he holds down that rotation spot.
I mean, they've got an MVP candidate in Puig, as well.
They're becoming like the Cardinals, as in like perennial favorites, like every year.
Oh yeah. Another team that's just $270 million payroll going into this season.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were even able to shed some of that dead weight too. Last year, they're still payroll skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the Dodgers, that was easy.
Dodgers.
Jonathan, who do you have for your wild cards in the NL?
I admittedly, I went ahead and gave the Cardinals a nod for a wild card spot. But for the other spot, I went ahead and took the Padres.
Okay.
I think it's a team that does come together enough to make it. I don't think that they last long. I think the Cardinals will take them out in that first wild card game. But yeah, I think it gels enough for them. But I think next year is their year to seriously compete.
I lose track of who's on the damn team. I mean, like, they're set trade every other day.
Yeah, I think we said it before. We said it in texting each other. They're like our 13-year-old self on, like, RBI baseball.
Yeah, like all hopped up on Surge, making trades all afternoon.
Yeah, just like, they'll trade anybody for anybody.
Yep.
The reason I don't know if I like them to win the division is, aside from Shields and Kimbrel, I don't think anybody they acquired is like really a sure thing, like without question marks.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Shields, I'm confident in. Kimbrel, they got
Kennedy and Josh Johnson have had moments, but not consistently.
Right. I'm saying the guys they acquired, though. Did they get Kennedy this offseason as well?
I couldn't say for sure when they got him.
But yeah, of the guys they acquired, like in that wave of people where they were signing or trading every other day, Shields and now Kimbrel, who they just got a couple days ago. I mean, those I'm definitely confident in those guys. But I think Will Myers is kind of a project still.
He is, yeah.
I think Matt Kemp is best days are behind him.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, just the injury. Yeah. It's a terrible contract.
Well, that's not going to affect his play.
Right. But, I mean, he's going to be... He's gone from, like, MVP candidate to, like, 270 guy.
Okay.
Maybe 15, 20 home runs.
Who gets more MVP votes this year, Matt Kemp or Jason Hayward?
Jason Hayward.
I'm taking Kemp.
Okay.
All
right. Okay, so... so Jonathan, you said the Cardinals and the Padres for your wild cards.
Mm-hmm.
Levi, who do you have for your wild cards?
I gotta have faith in my Cubs, man. I'm gonna give my Cubbies a wild card. I'm gonna give it to them. It's a little present, and I don't know. It may be one of those things where it's like the last 2 games of the season.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like everybody's biting their nails. Oh, Cubs wild card, Cubs wild card. And then we'll proceed to lose to the Giants, who I think are going to be the other one.
Okay, going with a veteran team there, experience on their side.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what it's going to take for the Giants is they're going to have to get the wild card to make it. You know what I mean?
That's the way it is. Yeah, the Dodgers will always be better during the regular season.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. A good choice is there. So Levi takes San Francisco and the Cubs. I'm with Levi. I think the Cubs are going to sneak. I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs. I do. I think that the reason I didn't choose the White Sox was because I think Kansas City, Cleveland, and Detroit are still better teams. In the Cubs division, I think the Cardinals are a better team. I think the Cubs could hang with Pittsburgh, but I chose Pittsburgh as my other wild card. So I've got
both out of the Central.
Yeah, both coming out of the Central. So yeah, I mean, with the Cubs with just a 1-game sudden death, who knows, man? The Cubs could go to the NLDS. It's possible.
Yeah.
I see the arguments for Pittsburgh going far this year, and they very well could still. I got them in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm a believer in the Cubs sneaking into the playoffs. I think those, like Levi said, I think like the last week of the season, you'll have the Cubs, the Pirates, the Giants, the Padres, and maybe even the Mets, who look better than they have in recent years. I think you'll have all 5 of those teams really fighting it out for those 2 wild card spots. I think the National League will be good those last 2 weeks of the season or so. So, yeah, the Mets have a good rotation this year. I don't think they've got enough maybe to get into the playoffs quite yet, but they've
Harvey and DeGrom,
yeah. So anyway, all right. So we've got that set. Now in the NL, who do you guys have going to the series?
I'm taking the Nats.
Yeah.
I think that rotation is just ridiculous. Strasburg, Scherzer, Zimmerman, Pfister, Gio.
It's built for a playoff run.
Oh my gosh, it's atrocious, and atrocious in a good way, like the kids say. So yeah, Washington.
I'll make it easy. I mean, I say the Nats too. It's got to happen sometime. So with the money they've spent, the lineup they have, and the fact that they could pull off just about any trade probably too if they had to. Mm-hmm. So
I'm gonna go Dodgers upset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that huge of an upset. I mean, it's still a really strong team.
Well, no, but
I
think it's the upset in that the money's not going to be able to buy it for them.
Right.
The Nationals.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so let's just revisit our World Series matchups. Levi's got Seattle and LA, right? Seattle and the Dodgers. Okay, Jonathan, you've got Boston, right?
Yeah, the Nats and the Red Sox.
Boston and Washington. I've got Cleveland and Washington. Okay, I've got Washington winning the whole thing. I think it's bound to happen. I mean, I don't know what. It's probably like 3 years where they've had the best team in the National League, or will be 3 years if they are. It's going to happen. I think this is the year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Washington takes it over Boston in 7. I think as long as Scott Boras lets all of his clients play throughout the playoffs and doesn't pull anybody.
Right.
But Jason Worth, gets his ring. Our boy Jason.
A guy who it looked pretty rough those first couple of years in DC, but he's evened out nicely. I mean, he's going into his late 30s and still putting up pretty good numbers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The most home runs out of Central Illinois, I assume, in the history of.
Pull some strings, Levi. Get him on the show in the
offseason. Like, hey, Jason, we went to high school together. Hey.
All right, so so that's 2 for the Nationals. Who do you got, Levi?
The Mariners are going to win their first World Series.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be my 13-year-old video game self.
Right.
But I think they deserve it. I think they got the talent. I feel like they get to the World Series, they will win the World Series.
Yeah.
All right.
It's one of those things, yeah.
I think Felix deserves it. I mean, he's been hanging in there in Seattle now for about 10, 11 years, if not a little longer even. Mm-hmm. Came in the league when he was, 18, 19? Yeah, he's a stud, man.
I do hope that Seattle makes it, actually, because I want to hear Ann Wilson belt out the national anthem.
There we go. There we go. Or Jerry Cantrell belt out the national anthem.
Yeah.
Well, he's from California, though, right? Or is he a Seattle guy, too?
I couldn't say for sure.
Anyway, so there you go, folks. 2 for the Nationals, 1 for the Mariners. Should be an exciting season.
Write it in stone.
Will be. You can follow it all right here. RockChew, rockchew.com, @RockinChew on Twitter and Instagram, and like us on Facebook. Now, getting to really the grand finale, really, of this guitar madness. We've gone through 64 guitarists, all of them great in their own right, but we've landed finally on 4 guitarists. And they are Rich Robinson of the Black Crowes, who will be facing off against Tommy Bolin. Tommy Bolin of, Deep Purple and the James Gang. Also, though, put out 2 just outstanding solo records. in the mid-70s, mid-late 70s.
Studio musician, as Jonathan mentioned.
Studio musician as well, yeah.
Yeah, that Alphonse, you said Mouzon? Alphonse Mouzon?
Alphonse Mouzon, yeah.
Yeah, that album he's on is great.
Such an eclectic guitarist. So, Rich Robinson versus Tommy Bolin, and then two titans, two guys, just really elder statesmen of rock here. Two guys that probably at least can defy physics. These two guys should have died a long time ago, probably. If they're defying physics, they're not flying or anything, but you know what I mean.
They haven't fallen down, and they're very old.
Right.
So that is defying physics.
Yeah. Pickled livers, both of them. But yeah, we've got Keith Richards versus Jimmy Page. So just wow, that one.
Yep.
That's you can't get too much bigger than that. So I think what we're gonna do then, Jonathan, you talked about the format a little bit.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory though.
Yeah, so let's just have a roundtable discussion of each of these guys one by one, and we'll start with Robinson and Bolin. Okay. And talk about each of their merits, and then we'll all, in a way, maybe even change each other's minds based on our arguments for them. So, and then we'll wait until we all talk, and then vote for the winner of each matchup.
Groovy. All right, do you guys want to start with Rich?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Definitely. Well, I'll start, and then you guys go there. I probably like one of the most important musicians in my life. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I know that sounds really overly sentimental, but not only as a guitarist, but also just as an all-around composer. He's just important to me. Ever since I saw him in the suit on the cover of Southern Harmony in 1992, I was like, that guy knows what he's doing. So as a guitarist, just his tunings, as we mentioned earlier in the tournament, also I think just all of the different guitars he plays too. I mean, he's a guy that
the Zamitis guitars.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't see him with. I've seen him with a Strat only once or twice, but.
Right.
I've seen him with just about the whole gamut of popular guitars.
I was fortunate enough to run into a Zamitis, much like the one he plays with the engraved plate on the front.
It's like aluminum,
Yeah. In London, in a guitar shop in London, and it was in there for repair, and the guy opened up the case, and we're all just like, oh, it's this beautiful Zamitis.
Well, yeah, it's like a $30,000 or $40,000 guitar.
Yeah, it's serious. Yeah.
He's just got an arsenal of guitars. So he can play lead and rhythm as well. One probably rhythm a little bit better than lead, but he's turned into a really good lead guitarist as well.
Well, and I think most of the time he was happy deferring the lead parts to somebody else, even though he very well could have played much of them.
Yeah. I think it's better when he is not lead all the time. I'll say that.
Definitely.
I don't necessarily know if I want him playing lead on every tune, but just such a gifted guitarist, and an eclectic one too.
Yeah, absolutely. His both of it, his electric work and his more subtle, whether it be acoustic or something like Nonfiction, Cursed Diamond, his work on Ballad into Wiser Time, and in the way that he plays with whoever's opposite, playing the other guitar with him on stage. He lets them take the reins, but then he joins in and he keeps up. And the places when you get that dual guitar attack at a show, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Keith Richards meets Nick Drake, man.
It's
right. Just
for sure. Well, and like that as you mentioned, Nick Drake, I think that like kind of. The word I think I'm looking for is maybe like a melancholiness to him.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And so it was always a super special moment during a show if like you caught Rich and he smiled. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you saw him and like I don't know.
Right. You're totally.
He always looked focused. I mean, yeah.
And so he definitely. I think that band doesn't exist without him.
Absolutely.
And I mean, we say that about a lot of different people. I think in my mind, the hierarchy would be him and then Steve.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Without those two guys, I think the band doesn't exist. Just a monumental song crafter. I don't know, you know.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, definitely one of the most important songwriters of the last 30 years.
Absolutely. And I think a guy too, they didn't, I think, get the attention that they deserved, but his last couple solo records are actually, I think all of his solo records are pretty good.
Yeah.
I only heard his first one. Was it Paper?
Yeah, you should check out the last two, man. I mean, they're more diverse than Paper is, certainly. But I think they're more mature too. I mean, Paper's really good, but it's I think some of the tunes kind of sound a little too similar on it. Yeah. Yeah, check out his last couple of records too, Through a Crooked Sun, and I forgot what the most recent one was called. But
so I think it's interesting that Robinson, Rich definitely has these influences. I mean, he's very much his own guitarist, but
sure.
I think two of his biggest influences are on the other side of this bracket with Richards and Page.
Yeah.
And Richards being his electric influence, while Page is almost his acoustic influence, or like you said, Levi, his more melancholy influence with like Bring On and Buttermilk Waltz, even Thorn in My Pride.
Yeah, you've got Sunday Night Buttermilk Waltz is kind of like Black Mountainside,
Exactly, exactly. And but he takes it into his own arena of guitar playing, so he's very much his own person. But we did touch upon something there where he doesn't quite have the stage presence. He knows how to dress, Gabe. You hit that on the head. The dude can fucking can wear it. But yeah, he's pretty quiet up there on stage, like Levi, like you said, very focused. And if you got a smile out of him, you thought, oh, maybe he's having a good time after all.
Yeah. It was always special.
We'll post some Rich clips on our different
you might even find one
social
of them
media.
Smiling.
And like Keith on the other side of the bracket, it's always exciting when he sings during the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is always, and his voice. I mean, this is not a vocal tournament, but his voice has gotten a lot stronger too as he's aged. Yeah. So, definitely. All right, so Rich, let's go ahead and go on to Bolin. Tommy Bolin is a guy actually that Jonathan got me into a few years back, and I've certainly just really taken to him and just really tried to devour just about everything he produced because he died way too young. So yeah, Bolin to me, I'm not gonna. I think I said a lot about him during the previous rounds. But to me, it's kind of like he's a guy that he could have fit right in Skinnerd, or he could have fit in Bowie. I mean, he could have played with either one of them, and done it really well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. You listen to that Deep Purple record he's on, that studio record.
Come Taste the Band. Yeah.
And the first song is straight up, oh, this is Deep Purple. This could be Richie Blackmore.
Right.
And you wouldn't know. And then the second song, it's like, oh, that's unmistakably Tommy Bolin.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a chameleon like that.
Yeah, kind of funky. He could he could play in Parliament. I mean,
totally.
Yeah. Him and Glenn Hughes were a good pairing within Deep Purple. They were kind of driving some of the newer sound that they were putting out before he died and they split. So
yeah, he's very soulful.
Yeah, Bolin. Definitely. So for me, just his soulfulness is how eclectic he is, and there's something. His stage presence is good. There's almost, I want to say, kind of feminine qualities to it.
Yeah, he's got a look too.
Yeah. I mean,
I think he was kind of intentionally playing that up a lot.
Right.
That's really funny because I remember getting this when I was staying with my mom over Christmas 10 years ago, and I got this at a CD store, and she's like, that man is beautiful. I know, he's a good looking dude.
Right.
Well, and on Private Eyes, he's naked on the cover.
Yeah, with those two chicks. With
that too. So,
right.
Yeah. He's always playing up the sex thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's definitely got a look.
Like platform shoes on,
scarves.
Definitely sort of
in prepping
fashion.
this, I watched because I had heard Miami from the James Gang,
Yeah,
and that was about it. And so I YouTubed some James Gang with Tommy Bolin footage, and there is a version of him doing Funk 49, and it's like he's on another planet.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that.
Like
I know what you're talking
it's
about.
like totally different, and he makes it his own. It's really cool.
Interesting.
It's like that riff for Funk 49 is there that like Joe Walsh did, but then like all of a sudden he hits some pedal and it's like blah, 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 blah. It's like spaceship effects and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what is this? It's out there. Yeah, but it was great, man. It's such a shame. He's you know, we've said it about a lot of different people, but it's like, man, if they could have just lived, what their body of work would have became.
And
he was only like 25, I think, when he died.
Yeah,
it pisses me off. I read that Rolling Stone had a really in-depth article the week after he died.
Oh, really?
He died when he was on tour with Jeff Beck in Florida, and he was hanging with people who knew that he had OD'd, but they were just kind of like keeping him awake and waiting for his breathing to resume to normal. And they knew this at like midnight, and come 3 o'clock, they refused to take him to a hospital because they didn't want the bad press. And he was dead by 7, with all of these people around him knowing that he had OD'd.
Yeah. Dude, no, that's a sad tale.
And apparently he wasn't a junkie; he just partied too hard that night.
Well, that's the same story with Average White Band.
Oh, really?
The drummer for Average White Band, him and the bass player are at a party with Greg Allman and Cher.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess
they were married.
There's like a plate of what I think was heroin or something, and the guy thought was coke, and so he like did a bunch, and they both did a bunch, and somehow Cher like kept the one bass player like revived alive to where he lived, but the drummer of Average White Band died.
Jeez.
And it's just so sad that it's like
totally preventable.
Yeah, people
after
they were at a party. It's like someone at the party fucking take him to the hospital.
This wasn't like Hendrix choking on his vomit in his bed alone or anything.
Yeah.
People were there literally watching
in
them
the bathtub by himself.
Yeah.
I got to read that Rolling Stone piece. Levi got me the really the whole Rolling Stone archives up until like 2008 or something like that.
Yeah, you
so,
don't need any of the new ones, man.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Nice.
Yeah, but I didn't know about that piece, honestly. So I
you can pretty much stop reading those Rolling Stones about 94, 95.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think overall that Bolin's guitar, it's almost as crass as it sounds. It's kind of like it's about getting laid, and it's about. At the same time, he's very sensual with his guitar. And,
he definitely makes love to it. Absolutely.
But he's really raw at the same time.
Yeah.
And
we mentioned, like I said before, that Alphonse Mouzon record, man.
Oh my gosh,
dude, he's a monster of a guitar player.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah. And it's just he was out there, man, in such a good way.
Yeah, so diverse. Yet he could fit into anything. And he would shred, but he was also a really good songwriter.
Yeah,
that solo stuff is solid songwriting.
Post toasty, man.
Oh God, don't even get me started, dude. All right, well, Bolin.
So yeah, I mean, let's vote on this now.
We got to vote
while we're here. Okay, we can. All of these are difficult.
Going into the final,
there are no losers at this point.
There
in the
were
bracket.
first round matchups that were difficult, even. So this is, you can imagine, is extremely difficult. I've got to go with Rich though, just for how much he's meant to me, and I mean, I'd be being redundant if I said what I just said, but to me, there's a larger body of work, so maybe it's a little bit unfair. But Rich represents the influences of all other guitarists I love as well. So yeah, he gets it.
All right, I'll go next. I'm going to take Bolin. I think if we weighted songwriting a little bit more, or at least if I were weighting songwriting in my decisions a little bit more, I mean, Rich Robinson is, like I said, one of the most important in the last 30 years. but I think when it comes down to the raw emotion of a guitar and what it means to be a guitarist in kind of a generic sense, I got to go with Bolin.
This is a tough one, man.
It's up to you, Levi.
You know, if I went with my heart, it would be Rich. But I think I'm going to go with Bolin on the fact that...
All right.
There you have it.
I think Bolin is the more... Even though Bolin's body of work is smaller...
Right.
Rich Robinson has never made a jazz fusion record.
This is true.
And so I just think the eclecticness is there, and I think Bolin is the better guitarist.
He's a better lead guitarist. Overall, I still take Rich, but...
No, yeah, and like I said, if songwriting was brought into this at all, it would be Rich every time. But when it comes to guitar playing, and these last four for me, I think it's about guitar playing. I gotta go with Bolin.
The chops.
All right,
there you
Tommy
have it.
Bolin enters the championship game. Who will he face? Keith Richards or Jimmy Page? Jonathan, start us off.
I'm gonna start off.
Whoever you want to take first.
I'm gonna start out with Jimmy.
Okay.
His body of work is pretty impressive. His session stuff. Even Betsy reminded me of the stuff he did. He was recording guitars for the Who early on. Mm-hmm. But what he's so bombastic in his compositions. It's amazing. Whether it's like Since I've Been Loving You and Out on the Tiles, compare that to like That's the Way and Brawny or Stomp is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, his electric songwriting and his acoustic songwriting, if they were separate careers, they would both be like Hall of Fame careers, if you will. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he does them together is almost unprecedented in a way. And we talked about how Rich did that a little bit, but I think his juggling of those two things is absolutely unparalleled in the history of rock.
You said it wonderfully, man. He's the best acoustic and electric guitarist of all time. I mean, you mentioned all those other titans, the four that weren't even in this tournament because they're so good. Jimi Hendrix, Duane Allman, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah, I mean, all those guys were phenomenal. I mean, more than phenomenal electric guitarists, but their acoustic body, I mean, they didn't play acoustically that frequently, but Page did, and when I think of him with the guitar, I almost think of both of them. It's like, imagine him in my head, he's holding both of them, and I value his work on the acoustic as much as I do on the electric. So, well put, man. Yeah,
it's it's unparalleled.
Agreed. I agree with everything you said. He's written some of my favorite, classic rock riffs. And like you said, I agree with the bombasticness. He's, almost...
He's not subtle.
No. It's like Beethoven.
Nothing subtle about Heartbreaker.
Almost like very big overtures, And sometimes, to me, that can sometimes be his downfall. Like, I sometimes don't like on live Zeppelin, where it's like he'll go to do a solo and it's just like crazy, obnoxious, noodly,
heavy-handed.
Sloppy. It can sometimes be sloppy. But part of that is his style and his tone, though, too, as well.
And some of the chemicals that he ingested that night as well.
Yeah, I think
he wanted to shove a cod up her.
Right.
But all they had was mini sharks.
We all know the story. Oh, anyway,
it's interesting though. Compared to all of the three other Final Four guitarists, he's the only one who doesn't contribute terribly much vocally. Correct?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't contribute anything to Zeppelin vocally, right?
I don't think so.
No, not to my knowledge.
There was no mic up there on stage.
John Paul Jones, I think.
Yeah, he would have handled any backing vocals. Yeah.
So, and I know that that's just a part of the entire picture, but it is something to consider. The idea that he didn't have to worry about that, I guess, contributing vocally.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now we've got the man who, what is in his 70s now, and still just announced tour dates a week or two ago. Stone's going back out on the road for who knows the last time. Keith Richards, really to me the kind of almost the living embodiment of rock and roll guitar, just with the riffs that he's written, with satisfaction. It's like you were to like an alien was to come down. I might be paraphrasing somebody else who said this earlier, so if someone else said it, I'm sorry, I can't reference it. Who? Like if aliens were to come down to Earth and they'd be like, what does rock and roll sound like? Like, you would be like, da, 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 da. That's what you do, right? So that's Keith. Keith's a fucking god, man.
He is.
Yeah. So
he's full of the riffs. And it is absolutely amazing that not that he's alive because of what he's been through, what he did to his body, but just that he was like the beginning of that transition into like rock, like the biggest transition into rock and roll.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
What I think most of us think rock and roll means, and it is. He was. He wasn't. He was dirty. He was nasty. Just like, yeah.
I wonder if like Bach was like this in his final decades. People were like, "Man, it's awesome. This guy's still around."
Yeah. So, just a walking piece of leather with a Telecaster.
They dipped him in embalming fluid 25 years ago, and he still looks great.
Considering what he's been through and his age, he actually looks pretty phenomenal.
Right.
And he's got like a beautiful wife, beautiful children. They're all like models.
It all works out for Keith.
Yeah. It's like.
He's only rock and roll, I mean, seriously. If you were to ask him, he'd be like,
he's like 40 years of I don't know,
Yeah, I think he's kind of similar. Rich is similar to him in stage presence, where they're not terribly animated.
Right.
And so that can be a knock against what you think of a classic guitar player. Obviously, Richards is classic in many instances, but he almost makes it look too easy up there. And some people think, actually, I just heard this on Dan Patrick this past week, where, some people misinterpret what he's doing on stage at this age for not playing. I mean, because a lot of the stuff he does is an open G.
Yeah.
And open G chords are really simple to play. It's just like a bar chord. And, it's just like a hammer on a note here and there. Not to, simplify it too much, but he's always made it look awfully easy, and that's not to diminish his abilities. He never did more than he had to.
I also think his acoustic playing is underrated, too. Yeah, so...
and his vocal contributions are always welcome in the middle of the show.
God, happy. Yeah. All right, so who do we take, though? Keith versus Page.
This is a no-brainer for me.
Okay. Well, who is it then?
It's Page.
All right. Okay. All right.
I think Page, going back to that idea of a guitarist, instead of the riff master. And if I need a song written in 4 minutes, all right, I'm going to Jimmy. If I need a song that starts with a theremin solo for 7 minutes, then I'm going to Jimmy. Otherwise, I'm going to Keith for the 3-minute song. Right. But I think Keith, his robustness, his, like I said, his bombasticness, he's totally well rounded. He's got all the chops and he's not afraid to show it. So I'm sorry, Jimmy. Did I keep
Yeah,
switching the names?
Jimmy Page,
using the names
Jimmy
interchangeably.
It's my subconscious battling. So
Yeah,
everything I
what's
said
that?
about Keith, I meant for Jimmy and vice versa. So Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
This one is tough, man. You want to go next game?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I take Keith. I mean, this one, obviously, like, Page getting this far wasn't far, but when I put the two of them together, I just think of what Keith's done for every other band that I like. And, I mean, you could say that about Page to a certain degree, maybe not as much. But I've already said it. Yeah, I mean, Keith is rock and roll to me. I mean, if there's anybody who sort of like, you know, he didn't invent it, but he perfected it. Certainly.
Yeah.
Chuck Berry invented it, I think. But and who's, you know, Keith's hero, you know. So yeah, it's Keith for me, man.
Yeah, man. If aliens ever came and visited me and wanted to hear rock, I'd be like, da 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 da. Smoke on the water, man. It's like, I think what I would give some aliens.
Blackmore's already out, all right.
Right.
So.
On guitarist and guitarist merit, I'm going Jimmy Page.
All right.
I
Wow.
appreciate Keith Richards a lot. I love all the riffs. He's my third favorite guitarist of the Rolling Stones. First probably being Mick Taylor, then Brian Jones.
Wow. Throwdown.
Yeah, I mean, I like Keith, but he's not. To me, he's never been in the. You know, does he got to be on every song? No, I don't think Keith had to. So I went with Page. Page. Keith Richards never wrote a Stairway to Heaven. You know what I mean? He wrote
better songs than Stairway to Heaven.
Well, no. What I'm saying is in like, there's no one piece of guitar work that Keith Richards can point to and be like, there's my guitar talent in like one song.
Satisfaction. I mean, he already did it.
Yeah, but who needs to listen to Satisfaction again?
Satisfaction is like 3 notes, man, and Stairway to Heaven is like
It doesn't
intricate
have to be
chords.
complicated to be great. You know, I mean,
No, not at all. Not at all.
It doesn't. But I'm going with Page.
All right. Hey, this is how the tournament shakes out sometimes.
Page and Bolin.
Page and Bolin. All right. Well, I mean, even though I didn't pick him versus the previous competitor, it's a little unfair because
It is.
I've listened to Bolin so much over the last couple of years that I'm so high on him right now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that necessarily to influence my decision because it's more temporary. Yeah. But Page, for all of the reasons you guys stated, is great. And his just how he approaches the instrument and the fact that he can play acoustic and electric so well just takes him quite a ways, and for me it takes him to the final. It takes him to the championship. Then I take Page.
All right, I'll go. You know, I think, like I said, you know, Bolin is, you know, it's great music. You know, if you're looking to turn down the lights and really chill and maybe score with a lady, while Page is like hanging with your bros, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, having a good house party for a couple hours. Right. And so those are two pretty fun paths to
those
take.
Those are good scenarios.
Yeah. And I think, you know, Page's body of work is pretty amazing. But coming down to this idea of the guitarist and the diversity of what in the chops he's able to show, like just anything, and not necessarily be just a guy in a cover band.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Bolin was able to do, even though it wasn't that long amount of time, the diversity of it is pretty amazing. And I'm going to take it over Page. I'm going to go with Bolin.
Oh, man. All right. So, Levi, this all comes down to you. This is the wild card game.
This is tough. Like I said,
it's the championship.
Yeah, this is
right.
David versus Goliath.
Levi, I went second because I wanted everybody to send you the hate mail.
That's fine. I've got very broad shoulders.
We're going to have a lot of people asking who Tommy Bolin is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. This is a tough one, man. They both deserve it. I think at the end of the day, I've got to go Bolin.
Whoa!
Oh. And I was about ready to go like down. No.
I gotta go.
Right. Wild dogs are howling through the night.
Even though he was here such a short time, he showed such a flash of diversity that he could do it all. And
yeah, that's true.
In one of the ways that I love Jimmy Page is one of the ways that he lost to Bolin in my mind is that sometimes he's kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to certain songs. So I went with Bolin.
Wow.
We have an official winner.
There you have it. I didn't think that Bolin was gonna win when we got into the Final Four. I didn't think that I was gonna have Rich beat him, and I certainly didn't think that I was gonna have Page beat him. But Gabe, like you said, sometimes this can break down into what you've been listening to for the last few years.
Right.
But I've been listening to more Zeppelin than Bolin in the last few years, and I don't know, but the diversity that Bolin was able to show is just unprecedented.
Well, there you have it, folks. Tommy Bolin is the winner of the 2015 first annual Guitar Madness Bracket. So, crank some Tommy Bolin. We'll post some Bolin stuff on the pages. If you're not familiar with Tommy Bolin, right? Hopefully you're still tuned in. Hopefully to this podcast, because we've just kind of anointed
some dude I've never heard of beat Jimmy frickin' Page.
Right. But you know what, folks? That's the beauty of the tournament. Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, they don't win every year.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Page is the Kentucky man. People thought he was going to be undefeated.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Doesn't happen, man. It's Tommy Bolin. Congrats.
In a way, I thought halfway through this tournament, I thought that Page shouldn't even have been in it. I thought he was too much of a god.
Right.
But sometimes when you break it down to these individual matchups, you realize other things.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you have it, folks. Jimmy Page is the champion.
No, he is not. Tommy Bolin is the champion.
Tommy Bolin is the champion. I'm sorry. Tommy Page is the champion.
What's funny is, Gabe, didn't you predict like Tommy Bolin would end up winning it like originally when we first even talked about
and yet you voted against him every time. Every round you voted against him.
I voted with him until Rich, I think.
I think you did, yes.
Yeah, Tommy Bolin is the champion. I'm sorry. Said Jimmy Page. Jesus. Wow, it's getting late. Anyway, so, guys, let's take it home then. Do you guys have any recommendations for music for our bullpen session here? Tommy Bolin. Yeah.
Teaser.
Teaser. Get it.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, just pick up Teaser, man. It's really, it's all you need.
And,
do you guys know who played, and Private Eyes as well. Do you guys know who played drums on a couple tracks on Teaser? Like what famous drummer, singer?
Yeah.
Phil Collins is on Teaser.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Huh. Didn't realize.
Yeah. He plays on a couple tracks. Yeah.
Very cool.
So.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, I don't really have anything. I'll show I could hardly ever find anything of this artist on vinyl. And I don't know why, because he was a really popular artist. And it's kind of one of those guilty pleasure LPs, but I finally found a mint copy of it, so I'm going to show it off. It's George Michael's Faith.
Mint.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. So I was
mint in both senses of the word.
I was rocking a little father figure earlier, man.
It's a good song, man.
Yeah.
Right. You know what? By saying that, Levi, we've probably, in some of our listeners' eyes, that invalidates everything that we said so far.
Yeah.
So yeah,
good job.
You know, get out there and buy your George
Michaels.
And I think Paul Molitor is going to take the Twins to the World Series. So thanks.
Let's go bold. Yeah. Well, congrats to Tommy Bolin. If you're not familiar with Bolin, we'll post some stuff as well as, dig his music out there. Unfortunately, for a short amount of time, he was very prolific.
And his archives have been prolific. They've released a lot of his stuff over the years.
There's a lot of bootlegs out there, too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of live recordings. So, yeah, check it out. And then the 2 James Gang records he played on, as well as Deep Purple's Come Taste the Band. One of their best, certainly. So, with that, thanks for hanging in there with us on the tournament. It was a lot of fun. We'll definitely do it again next year. Fill out your own bracket still and post it, as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, send them my way.
Tommy Bolin doesn't have to win in your tournament, even though he won in ours. So maybe it's George Lynch for you. I don't know. But anyway, for some reason I'm really glad George Lynch was included in the tournament. The Lynch mob. Anyway, so with that in mind, thanks everybody. Have a good night, and we will see you next time for episode 25. We made it, kids.
Over
All right.
and out.
Take care.
Yep.
Later.